Welcome to
She Blaze. Hey.
Oh, hey, where we're bringing you cannabis culture from a woman's point of view. And as always, here to elevate the cannabis industry. I'm one of your hosts, Big Ice, Cannabis Socialite. Okay.
Okay, Big Ice, Cannabis Socialite, and I am the other host, Ice Dawson, aka the WeedHead. Yay!
And I am so excited because we have our very first guest.
Yes.
Ever. Okay. And this is also probably one of the most quoted people on our show. David Kellman, aka Moarblunts. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for having me on. Yes, I am David Kellman, aka Moarbluntsnstuff. I'm from New York City. I got into the cannabis industry about 3 years ago. Previously coming from the electronic cigarette industry, I got to work for a really major company then, and luckily for me, Ice Dawson scooped me up, and now I'm a consultant within the industry.
I'm silly.
But push your shoulders off.
Yes.
Well, thank you and welcome, and we appreciate you coming on and giving us our little, golden nuggets to say on this show.
Yes, also this is monumental because you are our first guest in 12 episodes that we have done for She Plays. So that's awesome. Welcome. And it's so
feeling special.
Yes.
You are quite special. So you guys, we're getting off to a great start, but what are you high on right now?
Let's let our guests go first.
Yeah.
So right now I'm actually enjoying some Remedy Cannabis Durban Poison. It's real dank. Real high in terpenoline and all the extra terpenes. It's smelling real good, feeling real good.
Okay, well, what are you using it for work? What you do? Like, are you just, is that what you're, how are you feeling it? How do you
I'm medicating with it as my first smoke of the day. It's really high in that terpenoline. That's that gas smell. So that's going to, make you feel real awake, might give you a little bit of munchies. So that's perfect for like a wake and bake to start the day, get your breakfast, get your work done.
Okay.
I agree. I ain't gonna lie. I love Durban Poison. So, I'm biased.
I like Durban Poison too because it's an appetite suppressant. And, your girl can maybe leave the snacks alone. So,
Jesus. Well, that sounds delicious, but I actually, believe it or not, am getting high this week on my Princeton reunion. I gotta take a little sip from my mug because I'm so orange, so black. Okay. I'm high on going back to Princeton with about 1,400 other Black and Hispanic alumni. There are only a little over 5,000 total in the entire history of the university. And the funny thing is the university is actually older than the country. And so to meet people, women and men who basically really endured or were pioneers. It was very inspiring based on what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And the truth is when you are a pioneer, you are first to endure and you will get the mud on your face. But it's like, how do you do that and keep smiling and keep moving? And all of those people were very, very excited. We also happened to do like 150 plus person electric fly in Orange and Black. And so if you haven't seen it yet, you need to go to my social media. I am at Cannabis CEO, and you're able to check it out, or you can check me out on the WeedHead.com. But yeah, I'm high on that. And Michelle Obama, who is class of 85, I believe, she gave us a special message, and she talked about utilizing all of our memories and our people that we've known through the years as assets, because they are. And so I got excited to be part of, that Orange and Black contingent of movers and shakers. And honestly, it didn't matter what room we were in, and I'll be real, because I'm including myself in this. Everybody, every room, there was somebody famous of importance, and cannabis was certainly that buzz topic. So I'm high on that too. I got a lot of cards. Okay,
a lot of cards. But we gave a lot of education.
Oh, really? You was educated.
I was like, well, let me tell you something. So, yes, it was so exciting. It was amazing-tastic. I had a great time, and I was there so I can make sure all the videos and pictures get full length. We tired of the selfies. We gonna let your arm breathe, let you do your claw. You know what I'm saying? And I'll capture it for you. So it was exciting to be behind the scenes in that moment, and I am really, really just high on Really? I don't really know. Let me tell you something. So as far as cannabis is over with, I'm not high on that. But you know, it's Halloween time of the year, so I definitely am looking to go to some haunted houses. And I heard about this haunted house in Colorado that's like a cannabis dispensary as well.
Ooh,
so it's
we
like,
might have to make a trip out for that. That's just a little road trip.
It's a Glendale, Colorado. Yeah, I talked about it on She Blazed the Maze, so I'm high on that. Hey,
that's awesome.
Yes. But great. I'm glad that we had, but you know, let's get to these hot topics.
Okay, let's do it.
Yes, and the hottest topic of it all is Las Vegas is opening its first cannabis lounge.
Whoop whoop!
Oh yeah,
Vegas, baby.
Yeah. Really excited.
And it's so interesting because ultimately we are wondering how are they doing this all, because it's the first cannabis lounge, okay? And you know, they froze the cannabis lounge licenses. So how is this happening?
No, I'm like, let me get my notes out because I definitely have been scratching my head the whole time around this. Yeah. So you can tell us a little bit of details.
Well, it's called New Woo Dispensary, and it is one of the biggest marketplace dispensaries. We have been there, and it's going to be like a wine tasting for cannabis. So it's going to be cannabis tasting. So you're allowed to sample the product before you purchase the product, which is really cool because, like we said, you know, sometimes the cannabis could be poo-poo or air pack. And so it allows you to know
what you're actually going to consume. That is actually really, I need something like that in my life.
Okay. Yes. Well, you know you're on. And so, you know, David, you and I both went. Tell me about some of your experience, your thoughts. You know, you excited to go to?
Yeah, no, this is a really cool development in Las Vegas. I believe that New was able to do this even with the frozen licenses because they're on sovereign land. They're on sovereign tribal land. They're not actually exactly subject to the same regulations as everyone else. So this is a big deal. It's the first cannabis lounge in Las Vegas. I'm excited for it, but I'm actually a little concerned as well. Again, because they're on this tribal land, so they don't have to go by the same laws as everyone else. I'm concerned about what the practices are going to be in this consumption lounge. Like, you know, are we going to be hitting, you know, clean bongs and bowls? And, you know, is the water going to be clean in them? Are they going to be sanitizing these things before each use? You know, I'm more worried about that aspect. You know, even the cannabis that they're going to be giving people to sample. You know, previously we buy our cannabis unopened, you know, given to us over the counter. If they're going to be opening cannabis containers and serving it to us in bongs and bowls, you know, what is the practices around that going to be? You know, so that's where my mind's at.
I think those are really valid points, David, because one, you're a conscious cannabis consumer, so it doesn't surprise me that you're like really wanting to know the thought process behind it. What I will say is I won't make an assumptions in the bad way, but my hope is that it being on sovereign land means that the tribe can do whatever is in the best interest of consumers. They can set the bar really high. So I think that they have an opportunity to actually come out the gate doing it the way that we would love to see it done once this does become fully regulated in any state, but certainly in the state of Nevada. And so if I were in charge of New Woo, you know, and when we're talking about it, what I would make sure is that everything is pristine and above board, and essentially at the minimum what is expected in an environment where you're serving or handling a food or a produce or whatever in terms of hygiene, making sure that there's a real correlation behind what you're sampling versus what you're getting. And when I hear sampling, which of course I love, I think about being in Sam's Club where they have various things and they got a person that is there, you're able to kind of sample what you may want to buy. And essentially what they've done in Sam's Club or any other like Costco, they take the actual product and then they actually cook it or use it or whatever, and then you're able to sample it like that. So my hope is that it would be true to form. It's not like, oh, we're calling it this strain and then this is what we're actually giving you. I'm actually not a fan of getting our cannabis like wrapped up the way we get it, because the truth of the matter is what I'm smelling sometimes doesn't always align with what I actually get.
Yeah.
So even though I know that's why there's a law and it's supposed to be protection, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's still kind of hiding some things that should be more transparent. Like when I buy produce, they don't wrap it up if I don't want it to be. I can choose to get fresh tomato that I get to pick and smell and look at myself, or I could be lazier and decide to get packaged tomatoes. And I think that choice should be an option for consumers, especially when you're going to consume right there. But I'm excited nonetheless. I'll be joining y'all on that turn up for sure. So we're going to make sure that we actually plan that as a little team trip, team outing.
Oh, yay, more work. So I'm just kidding. And I think this is great to talk about, you know, safe places where you can consume and have your cannabis all out in the open. And it really leads us to a real hot subject in these streets.
Yes.
We right now are seeing an increase in cannabis arrests. And a 92%, honey, from 2018 comes from just having it on you, just not having a place to consume it comfortably. It is leading the charge literally on most offenses as far as like compared to aggravated assault, burglary, fraud, all of that. Okay, honey? It's crazy.
It is. And I was just like talking about this recently as well, because a lot of people not understanding how long we're taking to determine what a cannabis lounge looks like. We are actually prolonging the rectifying of some of this from marijuana prohibition. So in the case of Vegas, or in case of Nevada specifically, there's a 2-year hold on any new licenses from the governor to do more research. But I'm like, what exactly are we researching? That's one I might as well know. But then while we're doing that, what's actually being put in place for regulatory changes so that we don't continue to see increase in arrests? It's nothing crazier than to hear that more states have legalized, but arrests are still going up. It's like, yo, WTF, what is going on?
No, it does not add up. 1 plus 1 is not equaling 2 right now, and we're confused.
It's actually equal to some negatives.
So,
I mean, this must be the research that they're looking for, because this is the only actual information coming out of it. This topic strikes a particular chord with me because I myself was arrested for a minor cannabis possession just a few years ago. I mean, I had less than a gram of weed on me, couldn't even get the cat high if I wanted to. But these people, they detained me for almost 8 hours. And the truth is, as we drag our feet on these legalizations, on these consumption lounges, it's really just leaving a bigger window for, you know, people to get arrested for something as simple as just having your cannabis outside the house. So this is a big issue that we need to get on top of for sure.
Absolutely. And then, like, you know, you talk about it and it's so commonplace. So I just want to make sure folks are not like, oh, dang, she got somebody. Who did you pick up on your team? But the reality is this is a lot of people. In fact, just looking at the numbers, basically there were over 650,000 marijuana arrests in the country in 2018. That's one every 48 seconds. Okay.
Ouch.
So David, you're not at all by yourself in this. Like, the reality is that the country is still criminalizing at large, criminalizing cannabis possession. And we're telling the story like we are shutting down whole like cartels, and
because we're not,
but we're not. And in fact, I think that it is it's unfortunate because it makes us feel like, I don't know, it makes me feel as a cannabis patient that I have to always be in a heightened awareness around police, and I shouldn't. When I'm a medical marijuana card carrier, I'm taking it for legitimate reasons. I have multiple doctors that would be able to say so, and whether I didn't, it's like, so what? But what exactly am I doing that would warrant being put in cuffs and then put in, doing time? And at the same time, someone's, recently gotten only 10 years of a sentencing for killing someone. Don't take it lightly that you're thinking, oh, these people are just getting detained. And it, like, first of all, that's traumatizing in and of itself, right? Okay. You get PTSD from that. And I've had that experience where I wasn't arrested, but I was detained. But imagine getting arrested and you are serving 5 to 10 for your little bit of possession, right?
Okay.
As opposed to the fact that you may have actually been selling it, or even, this cartel kind of vibe that they always share with us. You're serving 5 to 10, meanwhile someone just shot someone and killed them. and only 10 years. So we've been over penalizing and highly criminalizing the cannabis possession. And that's the consumer base. And I've been saying, as a consumer marketing expert, there is no state that will legalize and do this well if they don't take that fear away, especially for Black and Hispanics, because 92% of this is marijuana possession. What I really want to know is how many of these people who have been arrested are Black and Hispanic, and I guarantee we're seeing a large percentage.
We're definitely going to see over the 50% if we're just looking at a state-by-state statistic. And talking about, you know, bail buds, basically, I think it's great because it really leads us to a bomb topic.
Right.
And this topic is about a cannabis company that is doing a lot of illegal stuff right now. No, this ain't alleged. We see you can find
they out you.
They brought the receipts for this, honey, and right now they had a warrant out. And so this is real here. Cushy Punch, which is a very, very, very well-known big cannabis company specializing in edibles, and they have vapes as well. This is a huge thing. You know, words on the curbs have always said that they had, you know, stuff falling off the back of their truck. But this actually just proves that they had stuff falling off the back of the truck. It was said that they basically had two different operations. One was licensed, one was not. Also saying that the stuff, because you know you have to test in California to be on the legal market, and they are in the cannabis store. The testing, basically the products that did not test well were falling off the back of the truck too.
Yeah. So they can't be in the legal market. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to sell it illegally where it's unregulated. And Cushy Punch is huge. I mean, like, in fact, at one point they were the #1 edible brand in the California market prior to 2018. And I know you know, David.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I'm definitely a Cushy Punch OG. I have been, you know, fan of the brand, consuming goods from the brand for quite a few years now. But I got to be honest and say that the first time I did try them was from the unregulated market. So I can't really say I'm surprised at this issue they're going through right now. But what actually jumps out to me a little bit more about this story is the fact that they are under heat due to a tip given to them to give into the feds from a anonymous person, let's say, which to me just lets you know that the cannabis industry is cutthroat. People out there are getting rid of the competition, even if it means snitching. So, shame on Cushy Punch, but the truth is, like, watch your back, everyone. Make sure you crossing your T's and dotting your I's because, them calls will come in and them boys will show up at your door.
Absolutely, but
talk about it.
They will. But then I start to put my business hat on and kind of think about, all right, well, what are going to be the implications for Cushy Punch here? Well, one, it's a huge distraction. You're going to have lawyers and a lot of their brain power or their executive team power looking at what's happening here. But here's what really pisses me off, and I think that's why we have to call to attention the over 650,000 arrests that happened in 2018 on possession alone. Those people spent time in jail, probably. Those people are probably still fighting some of those same charges. Meanwhile, because Cushy Punch is a licensed operator in California and probably other states, but definitely California in this case, where the illegal operation was found, essentially, I don't expect, and I put me on the record for this, I don't expect them to actually see any criminal action taken. Okay. What I found is in the disparities that are happening are like here. This is a perfect example because they're already licensed and they have deemed kind of sort of like a have versus a have not, which is a consumer. The company itself is allowed to still operate, but maybe they might get a slap on the wrist, maybe they get a fine. And I think that's the unfortunate part because the consumer is actually paying the major penalties when it comes to enforcement, law enforcement. And companies like this instead are more treated like they're, they're a kid that did something wrong and they're going to put them in the corner for a little bit, but they're still able to kind of continue. I am not saying that Cushy Punch should be getting criminal activity, because I actually think all of this needs to be decriminalized, right? But what I am saying is that there is that disparity, and that's why organizations like Minorities for Medical Marijuana is so important for me, because I need to advocate and make that vocal and make that clear that individuals are getting really over policed, like I said, over penalized. And then here we have this big multi-million-dollar company. They make quite a bit of money already on the market. They should be leading the market as a thought leader. And I thought maybe they were with some of their packaging and marketing branding updates. But
well, they're leading the way, and people who are 6'9" in the cannabis industry. And so I think that talking about how we are finding their products on the unregulated market helps us move into our main topic, and something that is really near and dear to our hearts. So Dashida is going to be the main interviewer here.
Yes, that's why we have a guest.
Yes,
right?
That's why we have a guest.
That's why we have a guest. It's been crazy the last few days, to be honest. It's heightened in the last days or so, but over the last few weeks, we've gotten a lot of questions about this vape crisis. And yes, hearing that Cushy Punch is basically putting in the unregulated market, and by unregulated would be underground, the legacy market, whatever is not being regulated by the government, right, or the state. In the unregulated market, they're deciding to put the product that didn't test well, and that makes me very concerned. And some of that product with vapes. We brought you on, David, really because as you said earlier, and I'll kind of boast a little bit more, I'm very excited that we were able to snag you from this big vape brand, because you did know and you do know a lot about the technology behind vape. That's why you're a vape technologist. And I think it's also important to kind of call out that you really have been, following along this story since it hit. You were one of the first people to kind of start pointing out some of the discrepancies there, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I first wanted to kind of keep a little bit, like to keep the ballistics a bit about some of the details about why this is important. From a business standpoint, the reason why I really was excited to bring David on is because when we first started in the industry, we saw that vape pens in the cannabis space were one of the fastest growing segments of the market. It was easily single digit, under 5%, and then it's very quickly grown to what it is now, over 30 to 35% of the market. And so we're talking about a lot of paper being generated, a lot of the growth in the industry due to vapes. And so I brought on an expert simply because I felt like, hey, I didn't know a lot about it, I'm gonna be honest. And a lot of what I learned from David. But let's talk first about what we're hearing right now as media crisis, I call it, as opposed to vape crisis. Like, what's the media and communication crisis?
This, oh my goodness, it's so crazy. I feel like it's a TV show half the time. But we are getting so many different reports and statistics, number growing by the day, that sometimes it's hard to pinpoint accurate information. Just to say here, just to throw that out. But right now they're saying that there's, up to 1,000 cases. And as right now, the death is on the rise of 18. So this is what's recently been quoted as today. Now, I don't know what's going to say tomorrow.
Fair enough.
And so this is really, and we're seeing this all across the United States, actually. It's not just in one particular area. You're seeing deaths 1, 2, 3, one, randomly across the country. So it is probably a common method that is really not good to use in a cannabis vape that is happening.
Yeah. So David, from your perspective, what are some of the key takeaways from what we've seen in the media crisis so far? What do you want to clarify first?
Well, I'm glad you're calling it a media crisis, because that's pretty much exactly what it is. It is very much a media and information crisis. What we're seeing is just, one bad report that is getting twisted and written and republished over and over again. This is, like you mentioned, because I'm a specialist and I do consider myself so, a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So first things first, what is not getting people sick is electronic cigarettes. Electronic cigarettes are not out here killing people. So I wanted to clarify that first. Now, what is getting people sick are vapes, cannabis vapes from the black market, from the unregulated market, let me be clear. Whether it is because of legalization, making the prices higher, making it a lot harder to get quality vapes, either way, you are seeing the unregulated market being shown to have lots of new adulterants added to their products, whether it be, vitamin E acetate or some other liquid that is just not healthy for human concern. That's what you're seeing popping up. And there's a couple of different reasons why this could happen. I primarily actually think this is a result of regulation. This is a result of, as we just spoke about, companies like Cushy Punch or others who are throwing their not safe to consume products off the back of the bus and letting it go to the black market, go to the unregulated market. Or you're just seeing, manufacturers from that space who are, again, adding more extra contaminants or adulterants to their product in order to turn a better profit. So again, these aren't necessarily licensed products that are hurting people. But there is something to be said about being a conscious consumer when you are buying your cannabis products. Whether it's you or you are conversing with, your person you're getting them from, make sure you can get as much information about the product you're getting as possible. That way you feel like you are having a, safer experience.
Right. No, I definitely agree with you. I think it's even more egregious when it's a brand name. So like, even if you have never had Cushy Punch, you probably have heard about Cushy Punch. So if you receive a vape from someone in an unregulated market, your plug, and it's a Cushy Punch vape, you probably think you hit the jackpot. And you may not realize that you're actually getting the reject vape. I know people are not aware of the fact that a lot of this is already happening in regular retail, things falling off the truck, and sometimes, or the defects that are in clothing, for example, going out to an unregulated market. And I think there's definitely a lot more education around just what you should be asking your plug. But again, most people are not asking their plug. They're just getting something and they're just being happy with it. So I think first and foremost, just like you said, got to remind people, like, don't buy from the unregulated market. Don't get the vapes. I don't want to also put it all on Cushy Punch because we don't know whether or not, they're part of this, and I'm not trying to, connect them with the crisis, but they are helping with the media crisis by having this type of story come out at that time, or at this time. What I will say, though, there are a lot of people who are like, all of a sudden, you got mom and pop shop kind of vape development. And what I talk about in How to Succeed in the Cannabis Industry, we have a processing and extraction portion of the book, and really breaking down the different ways that you can extract. There are so many different ways, but there are also not that many different ways. Understanding the difference between something that is solventless, which means that it never had a solvent or it never had a cutting agent, as someone would say, to begin with, versus solvent free, which means that it did maybe have butane or hexane or CO2 or alcohol. It had some sort of solvent to be made or extracted, and it's been basically cleaned or scrubbed to remove up until a certain threshold that is legal for the state. That makes it solvent free. So I think there's confusion on that. You got to get the book so you can actually get in detail. But you should know what you're asking for between that. And once you decide, okay, I'm going to get this BHO, right, which is butane based, I'm going to buy it. Do I know what else is in it? What other ingredients are in it? Do I know that it is been tested and it is saying that it's solvent free? How do I ask those questions? Well, you ask that at the dispensary. I also encourage brands to include that on their packaging, so it makes it even easier or more foolproof for the consumer. Yeah. I'm struggling. Yeah,
no, it's so good. I do agree with what you're saying. It's especially hard in the cannabis store, I feel like, sometimes, because when you're talking to the bartenders, a lot of times they're telling you, like, basic information, but they're not really telling you the real information. And it's honestly because they don't know the real information. If the company doesn't provide education, not on the packaging or to whoever's wholesaling it. They can't say anything. The bartender's like, yeah, it has some terps. I'm like, okay, are they food turds? Are they vape turds? Like, what I don't know. At the end of the day, it is really, it's a trickle down effect. The company that's producing the vapes have to tell the people that's buying the vape by the bulk, and then they're able to tell the people that's buying it by the single.
Right. No, I agree. I also think consumers have to demand it.
And let's be clear, a couple of these instances did happen in legal states, but the benefit to purchasing from a licensed dispensary or a licensed manufacturer is the possibility of that happening is much, much lower. These licensed products, official products, do have test results on them. They do have lot numbers. So even in the worst case scenario, something does happen, those products can be traced back. We can trace back and figure out which batch of them got you sick. You purchasing that product through a licensed dispensary and having that issue might actually save a bunch of other people from getting sick, because then the manufacturer can identify that lot with the issue and then can pull it from the stores, can issue that recall. So whenever possible, it is a good idea to just purchase from a licensed dispensary and make sure you do your due diligence.
Agreed. I mean, to be honest, I'm always very conscious about sharing when we're doing or we're seeing something in the cannabis space that we see other places. So panic is being put in place from the media and the way it's being spun, which I feel like is being pushed by certain parties that this is a benefit for them. But the truth is, there is not, it shouldn't be so much fear, because we can be smarter about the way we are shopping and the decisions that we're making. And we can demand, that the brands actually have information. Last time we were talking about MCR adding this testing component. Yeah. And I sort of feel like that's the type of initiative that every single cannabis company should be trying to do right now in order to ensure that their consumer base continues to have confidence in what they're purchasing. Otherwise, you're going to see a significant decline. But I also think they got to step up to the plate and be able to say, hey, these are the processes that we are utilizing, and it's exactly this, and every time is exactly this. There's only a very few, and I can name like very few limited amounts of organizations that will do this certification even. There's testing and then there's certification. And I think sometimes certification is a slightly little, something like you take a course or you're in a program, right? Like it's different. And I feel like certification on like this is how your manufacturing process is very different. And even then, cannabis is unregulated because it's still state by state. There's not typical things. But I always say that you can still manufacture to the level of FDA or good manufacturing practices. And as long as you are following that as a baseline, odds are you're going to put out information, or you're going to put out product that is actually good.
Yes. Well, this is a great explanation of the media crisis full of propaganda right now. And I believe that the followers really just learned so much. Thank you for coming on and setting the record straight. And you always got the record straight. And so I'm so glad we had this topic, because we really are trying to end it. No more propaganda, because you're making crazy rules around cannabis TC regulation. Make the right rules, like you said. And we're always going around teaching people about these things. So pick up our book. But where in the world will the WeedHead be?
I mean, well, let me bring up my trusty notes, because I never know off the top of my head. I'm sorry, because it's a little bit
a different thing every week.
It is a different thing every week, but that's why we're like, where in the world would the WeedHead be? Well, first and foremost, I am excited because I'm going to be headed back to New York City for the Cannabis Media Summit on 10/19. So it's October 18th, October 19th. You can still get tickets. In fact, I think we have a code.
Yes. WeedHead 50.
Yes, if you want to get
$50 off. I take it.
That's important. I mean, Not a lot of cannabis events actually offer discounts, so please take advantage of it. That's WeedHead50 is the code again, and that's 1018-1019. And then I'm headed to one of my favorite places in the country now, which is Buffalo, New York. I'm going to be participating in the Cannabis 103 Business Summit, and we're going to be talking about how people can get into the cannabis industry without, utilizing their current talents, which maybe not, probably won't be cultivating marijuana because that's been illegal for almost 100 years. So that's on 10/26. And then moving into November, because it's already like Q4, y'all. So November's happening fast. I'm going to be in Newark, New Jersey for the Real Cannabis Entrepreneur Summit. And I think it's fitting because I think of myself as a realist cannabis entrepreneur. And that will be on November 15th to the 16th. And again, that's in Newark. And that is also just one of those great opportunities for you to meet some of the top cannabis minds in the country that are doing it for real in the industry. Yes, some touching the plant, but there's going to be a good contingent of us that are teaching about how you succeed in cannabis with just your skills. It's like, it's so needed. We need more people in the industry. I'll never stop trying to get people to cross over, because I feel like right now we've done so many previous generations and waves of people just coming in and reinventing themselves. So
yeah, I agree. Well, I'm so excited, and you're everywhere. And thank you for joining us again, David. So please, Mr. Moarblunts, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on both Facebook and Instagram at Moarbluntsnstuff. That's Moar, MOAR, blunts, and the letter N stuff.
Yeah, he's a little educated.
Right.
He misspelled that. No, he didn't.
No, it's on point.
It's on point. I love it.
We see you peacocking through, and thank you. And you can always find me, Cannabis Socialite, on all social media platforms. You can also find us at theweedhead.com.
Yes, WeedHead Company. And of course, I'm the Cannabis CEO.
Yes, and Dashida the WeedHead. Yes. Anytime Dashida roll up, the WeedHead coming. It's all together.
It is all together.
So, thank you guys for joining us. Have a great Saturday.
Woo woo. Bye.
Bye.
And cut.
Okay. Thank you.